You don't want to end up in prison because then that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life.
This project is important because I think it's vital for the school to make links with external people who are working with young adults, and it's sort of like helping them understand, what happens if wrong choices are made. And I think this film hopefully will encourage students to make better choices within school before it's too late, really. And I think that's really important, because some people, I think if they had the time again, school is important and they would see it as that rather than just going and meeting my mates at school.
My name's Oliver Sanderson and we've just been to Wetherby Prison. Well, I thought it was going to be not as bad as it was. I thought it was going to be calm and stuff, but it wasn't. There were loads of folk banging and stuff. Well, we went for a tour around all prison, like mental health and stuff. We went on 2 wings and we went in a couple of cells what were empty. We went in one cell what had somebody in it, but they weren't there, like with all the belongings and stuff. They were like, all their belongings, but it was like a mess, if you get what I mean. Because like, when I'm on my way home, I don't want to be bad no more because I don't want to end up going there. Because I couldn't live in a cell like that for all my life, as long as I were in there.
Like, to say it's not as strict as what most other prisons are, it's still like, you've got most things, but you still haven't got everything, because you've got a TV and everything, but it's like not exactly good, and you can only watch certain things. And your bed's not exactly comfy, and your pillow's like horrible. And it's just not the same as what you'd want when you're at home.
Just the way they treat them, I thought it'd be less strict because obviously they're children, but they just get treated like adults.
It wouldn't be as strict as it was. It's horrible. Not letting to see your family or out.
If you don't want time, then don't commit crime, really. But
my name's Nikki Powell and I teach at Darton College.
My name's Mrs Hudson and I'm the curriculum team leader of Creative at Darton College.
My name's Mike Wade. I work in a secondary school in Barnsley as a PE teacher, first and foremost. And then secondly, I work as part of the pastoral team as a progress leader for currently Year 8.
I thought that prison was cushy. I thought it was easy, that it wasn't harsh enough, and that the offenders that were in there weren't getting the punishment that they probably deserved.
I think I was influenced by, programmes you see on telly. In my opinion, I thought that the standard of living and the condition that these kids were going to be living in would be a lot easier, a lot nicer.
Wetherby Prison, to me, the first thing that I thought about the prison was that it was a prison. Now, my first thought when I was going was it won't be a lock and key guard with loads of keys and minimal hours of the day outside of a cell. They were a long time in a cell, not much to do. The discussion that we had with the prison guard, and he said that we have people that are confined for 16, 17 hours at a time, given the food in a cell. That really struck out to me. And one of the things that resonated with me was their age. They're only, they're not even 18 years old, but yet they're already being treated like that, which leads me on to thinking about, does prisons work? Do they work? Do they reform characters? Do they reform people? I'm not so sure they do when they act like that. And it sort of led me to think that maybe prisons, the way they are, they don't really work in a way that he said that the majority of people that go into that prison.
I was really surprised, and I've spoken about it all weekend to friends and family about how if young offenders come out of that experience saying that it was a breeze, it's fine, it's just like being at home, it isn't. They had no privileges. They had to earn things that we would take for granted, like pillows and duvets and free time and education, and all those things were taken away from them. And I do think that it must be pretty horrific to spend 23 hours in a cell.
I was quite shocked. It affected me going in to the prison. I think the visiting room shocked me the most. And I thought about what it would be like as a mum going to visit, their child. And it was tough that they explained that you weren't able to have any contact at all. You couldn't touch the hand or embrace in any way. And there were often a long waiting time to actually go and visit them. So that really shocked me. I thought about as a parent and not just as what it'd be like for them and how it would influence the whole family, I suppose. The conditions were tough, and the more we went into the prison and the more we saw, the more shocking it became, really.
It affected me from a teacher's viewpoint that I believe that the education system fails some young people. And because the education system fails them, and because they don't have a curriculum that suits them, they fail from day one, and therefore they believe that they're failures, they lose confidence, they become distraction and a disruption and are punished, and therefore they perceive themselves as bad and start doing bad things, when actually, if education didn't fail them and they stayed on the right track and had positive thoughts about themselves, then they wouldn't end up spiralling out of control like some young people do.
I think schools need to look at choices at the curriculum. Some of these kids, they're almost set up to fail because we're trying to get them from one point to this point, and it's about results. And these kids aren't a number in a spreadsheet. These are kids who have got challenging backgrounds.
The eye-to-eye contact with the young offenders that were in there, when I looked at them, and I can still see them now, I felt sorry for them, and I thought, they've probably had a life of neglect and abuse and have ended up in there when actually they shouldn't have ended up in there. And I also feel that, are they going to come out any better than they were when they went in? And they're probably not, because they're going to be even more damaged than they were when they went in the first place.
Now, I know that the criminals and they've done things wrong, so there needs to be some sort of punishment, but I'm not sure that they are reformed characters, and maybe a bit of work needs to be done with that, because I think once they fall into that trap of going into a young offenders prison, then they don't really get themselves out of that position until later on in life. Some may never do that, and some may never get out of that horrible cycle of reoffending and going back to prison.
I was quite upset. I looked at two young boys who were peeping at me just out of a window, a rectangle, no bigger than that, and just their eyes, and they were smiling, they were curious. And at first I didn't know whether to say hello or to engage with them in any way, but then I think that maternal instinct in me took over, and you could see what the names were. They'd got tags at the side of the little windows, and we learnt quickly that one were called Kyle and one were called Callum. So we said hello and found myself having a conversation with them. And what were interesting as well is I'm quite claustrophobic, and when we had the opportunity to actually stand inside a cell, I weren't able to do that. And these kids were in there, and they were locked in there for hours on end. I didn't think they'd be locked up for as long as what they were, actually, which were quite shocking.
Well, it's up and down, because I can be on my best when teachers actually try with me. I don't know how many times I got excluded for fighting, refusing, swearing, stuff like that.
Been excluded 3 times. One of them was for headbutting someone. One of them was for refusing to get searched. And I think the other one was just for being stupid in school and refusing to go in seclusion.
I'm happy now. Now I've got the lessons I want to be in. And whereas 7, 8, 9, I didn't like school. I had to do set lessons.
When you fight, either you go into seclusion, or if it's that bad, you get excluded. I get excluded every single time. And when you refuse, you'll get like a detention, but if you carry on refusing, they'll say you got a day in seclusion. And if you say you're not having a day in seclusion, they'll exclude you. And then you'll come back next day and they'll want to still put you in seclusion. And then you'll not want to come to school until they've let you out of seclusion, which I've done lots of times. And then, because I've done it so many times, I got moved to Penistone. And it went to a good place to go. So it were different. I didn't know anyone at all.
Not as bad as what I used to be. I used to smash school up. I used to have face near enough every day. It was bad. But now I've settled down a bit and I'm doing all right at the minute.
Make sure you just don't get sent to a different school, because it's not nice. You don't know anyone. New teachers, you don't know anyone at all, and you're very nervous. The best thing about school is PE lessons, break and dinner when you get to see all your mates. School would be better if teachers were more reasonable.
My name's Kate Davies and I am lucky enough to be principal at Darton College.
My name is Miss Hillier and I'm pastoral practitioner for Year 8.
My name's Mr Taylor and my role at Darton College is Vice Principal with responsibility for teaching and learning.
I was really naughty at school and when I should have been revising and studying for my A-levels, so I wasn't very good when I was doing my GCSEs, but when I was revising and studying for my A-levels, I got involved doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. So I was supposed to be passing my A-levels and going to university to train to be a teacher, but instead of passing my A-levels and going to university, I failed all of my A-levels, and I got told by my mum and dad that I had to either go and get a job or I had to go back to school and resit my A-levels. And I decided, because I was a bit pig-headed, that I wasn't going to go back to school because I knew better than anybody else. And I sort of did nothing for about 8 or 9 months, and then randomly I decided that I was going to train to be a nurse. So I went into a different profession. I trained to be a nurse and I worked as a nurse for about 8 years. But all the time that I was training to be when I was a nurse and qualified as a nurse, I used to end up doing the teaching programmes. So I did a lot of teaching programmes for student nurses and for junior doctors, particularly around cardiology. So the teaching bug never went away. I had my 3 boys and I did my degree the hard way. So I had to study at home with 3 little boys under the age of 5. So it took me about 5 years to get my degree, staying up till 3 o'clock in the morning to work my backside off, basically. I got my degree and then I had the opportunity to train to be a teacher. And so I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. I was older, so I was about 30, which I know seems like really old to you. I wish I was 30 now, it seems like quite young, it's so long ago. So I retrained to be a teacher in Barnsley, and the rest, as they say, is history.
I think there's a reason why people misbehave. I always believe that there's something that's underlying. I don't think any child is just naughty. I think it's really there's underlying factors to it.
Well, what I love is having the opportunity to work with people who I think are very similar to me. I'm a Barnsley lad myself. I went to a Barnsley school. I feel as though I can nurture effective working relationships with the people of Barnsley, specifically the young people. I love everything about what the school stands for. It prides itself on being incredibly inclusive.
So I started my teacher training obviously in a primary school, so working with younger children. So my first class were the class of year 3s, so they were sort of 8 or 9 years of age. And then obviously to where I am now with bigger kids. You're just all physically bigger. I don't think you really change from being about the age 8 to 15. And I don't think behaviour has really changed. I think that young people have always behaved in similar ways. I think you've got massive pressures. I look at when I was at school and there wasn't the same pressure. I messed around, as I said. I was naughty. I did things I shouldn't do.
I think it's changed from when I first started. The behaviour has changed in school, yeah. I've been here for, I think it's 11 years now, and behaviour were quite bad when I first started, and I felt quite intimidated when I started, but I do believe that behaviour has got better. I think, I don't know, they seem to have more respect these days, children. Not all of them, but I think majority of them have got more respect. And you tell them once and they do listen, apart from just odd bunch that don't. I think they're quite well behaved.
One of the things that I feel my holistic role is as a teacher and as a school leader, I'm not purely interested in just a school that is a results-driven establishment. I'm incredibly passionate about growing good people who are ready to go into the world and be nice people and have an impact and make the right choices, do the right thing. That's how I deal with with the learners at Darton, and those are some of the morals and ethics that I try and instill on them. Make the right choices. Everybody knows what it's like to be a good person.
But we didn't have social media. If I wanted to go ring my boyfriend, I had to go to the cold phone box at the end of the road. We couldn't take images of each other and send them to each other, because actually you had to take your film out of your camera and send it away for about 2 weeks. So the pressures for you and the pressures around social media and drugs were around and alcohol was around and smoking's always been around. But I don't think your behaviours have changed. I think the world has changed around you. We all think everybody's lives are like ours, and I was really lucky. I had, mum and dad lived together, nice house, warm, all those things. And when I went out into the community particularly, I realised that some kids were having to deal with domestic violence or drug use or significant mental health issues within the home. So my view about my job as a teacher and as a head teacher is that although I want you all to do as well as you can academically, I actually want you to feel safe and secure, and I want to make sure that you're educated about the other things out there that are equally as important as whether you know about Macbeth or Pythagoras or whatever it may be. So I think it's made me view education really holistically, and I want the best for you as an individual, not just the best for you in terms of what your GCSE results are.
My name is PC2985 Claire Mount. I'm a police officer for South Yorkshire Police. I am currently on secondment. I'm working for 2 years at Shafton and Carlton Outward Academy as their school police officer.
My name is Stephen Merritt. I'm Chief Officer, Head of the Special Constabulary in South Yorkshire Police, responsible for deployment and strategy.
The job that I'm doing at the moment, I like because it gives me a totally different insight into dealing with young people. Usually when I used to deal with young people, I used to go, tell them off, and then leave. But now, I work with them all the time. So I get to know them, I get to know their families, I get to know a lot about them, and I can deal with them a lot better because I know them.
Knife crime in South Yorkshire with the youth of today was 1,711 incidents reported in the last 12-month period. It's fair to say that our armed response officers spend more time dealing with the youth of today carrying imitation firearms than they actually do attending viable firearms incidents. From a knife crime perspective, it's up 46%. And you might be surprised to hear that 96 of the incidents that I mentioned are actually happened in schools. So there's a real issue in schools and the youth of today carrying knives. If you were to look at it more deeper and ask the questions, why do people carry knives at such a young age? Well, for protection, to look big, to be cool, part of a gang, but it also might be part of an element of being coerced, like peer pressure, to do something that somebody else is doing. For me, it's a simple answer. Step back, don't get involved, because getting a criminal record for possession of a knife on the streets of South Yorkshire in a public place will get you a 12-week prison sentence.
A big thing that I deal with is use of social media and mobile phones. It's massive. I didn't realise when I came to work at the school how big that was. People sending one another indecent images of themselves and other people. Very often, young people are not aware that they're committing an offence by doing that. I deal with that is a really big part of my job. So I try and do talks and awareness sessions on that every so often.
The youth perspective, taking a knife out of the kitchen drawer seems to be more of an option than it used to be. Every single household in South Yorkshire and in the UK has an armoury in the kitchen. And if I may, a simple knife such as this caused a young lad in Norfolk who was stabbed in a school toilet with a knife of this length. Whilst the knife went in, it penetrated through his liver and heart artery. It's a tiny little entry from that in, but he has scars going across there and down there as a direct result of the operations that was necessary. He passed away in the ambulance and had to have 2 blood transfusions. Thankfully, he's well today, but it could have been so very different.
I think that young people are not as frightened of the police as they used to be. I don't say that they need to be frightened, but sometimes I think that's quite a good thing that they are a little bit frightened of the police. But I don't think that young people are as frightened of the police as they used to be. And I don't know the reason for that. I think one of the reasons is there's less police there. So they know that they can misbehave for a bit. Somebody will ring 999 and police might not come for hours. So, you know, they don't mind misbehaving. They'll chance it just in because police might not even come. And I don't know the other reason for that. I'm not really sure. I don't know, but I do think that the young people, some, and I'm not saying all of the young people, but some people haven't got as much respect for the police or authority as they used to have.
So, hello, I'm Miss Howland. I'm pastoral practitioner for Year 10 at Darton College. Part of my role is to help the whole of Year 10 with their mental health, their behaviour, their learning in the classroom and also wellbeing while they're at school. My relationship to the boys that are on the project is I help them with difficult times if they've got behaviour in the classroom, if they're having any friendship issues, if they've had any problems in the community and they come into school. We support them and put strategies in place to help them learn. I feel like this project has helped the boys a lot. They've kind of opened up a bit more and realised the consequences of if they were to get involved in the community and antisocial behaviour. They're now more aware of the consequences that probably what could happen while they're out in the community. From talking to different people that they've been to see, the projects that they've been on, the trips that they've been on, they have come back and openly talked about what they've found difficult, what they've found surprising. They've also talked about what if the things that they can get involved in and things that they'd want to change in their behaviour in the community as well. So I feel like it's been a great project for him to see what behaviour they need to change out in the community and things that could impact them in later on in life.
I felt really proud. I care passionately about education and what impact I can have on the lives of young people. And I think for the first time in a while, I went home and I was just really proud of myself. It's getting quite emotional. I thought, I've done something good today. And I think maybe I've just impacted on them kids from Darton College who are struggling. Maybe I've helped one of them, and I felt proud of myself. And I couldn't wait to tell my family. And I thought, this is what I should be doing. This is where I should be. This is my job.
During this project, is seeing you guys. That's really stood out to me in a professional manner. At times, I see you around school, and you're just like kids, just the same as I am when I'm with my mates when I'm out. But I've seen you really develop and grow when you have to. So when we went to the prison, I think that when you see you guys in a position like that, and you're talking to adults and you're talking to people who are in a position that they are, for example, the prison guard, you were really mature, you were really honest with what the questions that you were asking. And you're young adults. And that for me is the best thing that I've seen on this project. Same as what you're doing now, right? You're interviewing people who you've known for a long time in school, which takes a lot of courage because you have to sit down and actually be professional. And that's what you've done. So I think the best thing about this project that I've seen is you guys being, young adults, being mature and actually doing a fantastic job in what you've done.